Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina wa Mawlana Muhammadin wa alihi wa azwajihi wa surriyyatihi ajma'in. Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'ahu wa arina al-batila batilan warzuqna ijtinabah. Rabbi zidna ilma. So, we continue our reading of Wolfgang Streeck's How to Study Capitalism. Okay, so once upon a time, so we had looked at the abstract last time. This is going to be probably a slow reading. Once upon a time, sociologists knew that modern society is a capitalist society. That is, capitalism is not one thing, a particular kind of economy, and modern society another. Once upon a time, so they don't know it anymore because of the dominance of capitalism, I think. Because once it become overwhelmingly dominant, then the official line is that capitalism is a natural system or natural way of doing economy. I mean, nothing to do with philosophy or values and those sort of things. It's a technical thing. So why he's talking about sociologists? Because he is primarily, I think, a sociologist. Let's talk a bit about Streeck. So Wolfgang Streeck, I mean, I've read him quite a bit, but I don't know that much about his his person or him as a person. But he's one of my favorite political economists, not because I agree with him, but because whenever you read him, you get to learn a lot of things, and that should be I think that's how I like it. I like the authors where when I read them, I can sort of think with them and against them and etc. So either always fresh ideas, I think. So it's worth reading if you're interested in political economy. So I think he's a political economist, but is trained as a what they call economic sociologist. And he's German, obviously, just from the name. Was born in 1946, and he's worked in Max Planck Institute. I think he's retired now. And so far as I remember, he's one of Adorno's students. So probably I think he did his PhD with him or something like that. He was somehow, that's what my recollection is, because he studied sociology in Frankfurt University of Frankfurt, where Adorno worked as well. And I think he did some study. He did study in America as well, I think. And another interesting thing about him is he's someone who is still a socialist. That's what you call them nowadays. I don't know. Socialist, Marxist, some Marxist. Is some sort of a Marxist still. But he's also a nationalist in a sense. He sort of combines is socialism. With a lot of actually people who still believe in Marxism have become nationalists somehow. Um, Another interesting thing about him is that obviously as a socialist or some sort of a Marxist, he goes back to Marx's analysis or Marxist analysis. But I think he is also, and that's I think give his work sort of a depth it has. Interesting thing about it is that he's also influenced by Karl Polanyi, um, the author of The Great Transformation, The History of Capitalism. So Polanyi doesn't come from a leftist or Marxist background, so that's a combination of influences from the right and the left, which gives his work the depth it has, I think. Anyway, enough. And he has a blog as well and a website, both in German and English. He regularly comments on the current affairs, etc. So it's worth keeping an eye on that. Okay, so what is he saying here is that sociologists used to analyze modern society as a capitalist society. But now they treat capitalism as a one thing and society as a separate thing. Okay, so why is that a problem? So you have a society, um, modern society, and you have capitalism. That's considered, so that's how, so modern society has different aspect. One of its aspect is that its economy is a capitalist economy. That's how nowadays people think about it, according to history, or most people or sociologists. Um, but the previous way of looking at it was that modern society is a capitalist society in the sense that it is capitalist not just in economy but at all levels. So it has capitalist individuality, capitalist social organization, capitalist institution, capitalist education, capitalist economy, and capitalist state. So capitalism is more like a civilization rather than just a technical economic system. I think that's his preferred way, and I think he's right in there. That's how I want to read capitalism as well. Okay, the crisis of 2008, which is still unfolding. So it's an old article in it. I think it was published around 2012 or something, if I'm not mistaken. And then it was in where was it published? I'm not sure. I can tell you later. In one of the journals published by Cambridge University Press, but later it was included as chapter 9 of his book, How the Capitalism Will End. So the crisis to the which is still unfolding should have reminded us of how deeply intertwined economy and society are under capitalism. So economy and society are subsystem in a sense. but they are anchored in a life world which is also a capitalist life world. If you want to use Habermas's terminology, even though Streak is not very a big fan of Habermas, even though I think he might have worked with or studied under Habermas. um, I think it's gone full of Habermas in a way, which is quite refreshing actually. Two implications stand out: that the capitalist economy is too important to be left to economists. And economists nowadays also have, because economics has become a technical discipline, and that sort of hide the fact that it is essentially a religion of capitalism, in the sense that it is a philosophy, it is an ideology. And that was clear in old days. So if you look at all the classical economists, they are philosophers first, and then they're like Adam Smith. They lectured on all, moral philosophy, logic, etc. And one of his main book on which his Wealth of Nations depends as a background is the theory of moral sentiment, which many people don't even know about. So, and in old days, or even today, in economics was studied under moral philosophy. But nowadays it has become quite a technical subject, in the sense that it has been mathematized. There's a lot of statistician who um, you know study economic data, etc., but they are quite weak in economic theory and philosophy, and moral philosophy and social philosophy, and in which economics is essentially anchored and embedded modern economics as a discipline. I don't know why I started talking about that, but let's go back. Yeah, so he's saying that two implications: capitalist economy is too important to be left to economists to study, and the contemporary society cannot really be understood by sociology that makes no reference to capitalist economy, because modern society is a capitalist society. Okay, so how can you study it if you subtract capitalism from it? And how can you study economy if you don't know about capitalism as a civilization, as a society in which that economy is embedded, essentially? So that's what he's saying, I think. And I think his point is well made, and we should stop here.